This is Scott Vanderplu, and you're listening to the Artist Edition Index Podcast, episode 51.
I went down to the St. James Infirmary, found my baby there, stretched out on a long white table, so sweet, so cold, so fast.
Thank you for joining me once more on this audio journey where I take everything that happened at the Artist Edition Index and bring it to the spoken word via this podcast. Again, everything can be found at aeindex.org, and you can contact me through there, Scott at aeindex.org. We're also on social media, facebook.com/artisteditionindex, Twitter at aeindex, and Instagram at aeindex. I've really slowed down on the Instagram since you can only post images and you can't have links. So I was going to link to articles and content, but since that doesn't work, I'm not actually sure what I'm going to do with Instagram after my year of images was over at the end of 2020. All right, let's get into this month. A few things of note were posted, and the big one was the 2020 Dunbier Awards winners was posted on February 1st. The voting went from January 1st to January 31st, and then we posted the winners. Of the 6 books that were released in 2020, we only had 2 winners. Dave Cockrum's X-Men Artifact Edition from IDW, edited by Scott Dunbier, won for Best Overall, Best Reproduction, Favorite Material. As well, it was the most purchased AE format book in my list. And IDW also won for Best Publisher. Now that they did an excellent job. IDW stand out, created the format. But in my survey, I specifically said Best Publisher of Material printed in 2020. Don't look at the overall thing. Look at 2020 only and say, was that the best publisher? I think I may have to word that differently next year. And the other winner outside of Dave Cockrum's X-Men Artifact Edition was for Best Design, and that was Original Art, the Daniel Clowes Studio Edition from Fantagraphics, designed by Daniel Clowes himself. So those were the winners, some excellent material and some really standout books. Congratulations to those winners, IDW, Fantagraphics, Scott Dunbier, Daniel Clowes. Great job. All right. As well, something that happened in February, I started a new column, and I called it Artifacts. It seemed to fit properly, right? It's not something complete. So I went with the, this is an AE format site, right? So I'm going with an AE format, Artifacts. And that's where I'm going to post snippets of news that I'm not, I've run across, and I'm not sure otherwise what I do with it. Here's the blurb from the first post. I keep running across small bits of information or little updates that don't fit an article and have been struggling to determine how best to share. Quick posts to social media make the most sense, but my focus is the site and its posts. Perhaps I'll do both. Starting today, I'll be doing these Artifacts posts to share what's news or new. I did a little fancy thing with the S and the parentheses there. But the first one was February 19th. Maybe we'll see how it goes. Probably do one once a month. I mentioned the new catalog. There's no way solicits. DC has shifted their distribution to Lunar away from Diamond, and that means Graffiti Designs also had to shift. As of when I wrote it, there are, of the 16 gallery editions that Graffiti has released, there are only 4 available from Lunar. So that's a bit of an odd situation. I'm hoping that will correct itself. And then Wayne Allen Herald announced that the P. Craig Russell Symbolist Fantasies and Other Things Fine Art Edition will be released around August 2021. So that was the Indiegogo book sold last year. So I have that on order too. I'm anxiously expecting that. I think we're going to have a very light year for books. We've had the Jim Lee X-Men, which was released this month, thankfully. We have the easy covers for July. Scott Dunbier said on a Zoom call that we had for Patreon patrons of this site, which was on the weekend, that we should see another book in October, but that would be about it. So if we get 3 from IDW this year, 1 from Steve Rude, which is the book that he's doing himself, as opposed to Dark Horse doing it, and then we have the Wayne Allen Herald book. So I think we know about 5 for 2021. I'm always hopeful for more. Maybe Dynamite will finally release that Vampirella book. Maybe Graffiti will get a book out, solicited and released. I'm still hoping for that. The book they were working on was The Killing Joke and other material from Brian Boland, but we're going to have to wait and see what happens there. I really hope that comes out. And also, while we're talking about things, I did want to apologize. This podcast is coming out on March 1st, and I try and get it out the last day of the month. But yesterday was a just wonderfully peaceful Sunday at home, and I completely forgot about it. So, doing it today. So, thanks for sticking with me and taking that one-day delay. All right. Let's talk about the poll from February 2021. And that was provided by our Patreon patron, David Jacoy. So always thankful for David and his work here. Here's what he wrote for this poll. Spider-Man sells comics better than anyone can. And not simply because it's a cool character, but also due to having some crazy talents drawing the human arachnid. In the 80s and 90s, these superstars drew Peter Parker's adventures. Who among them should get the AE treatment? Okay. All right, artists listed were Mark Bagley, Ron Frenz, Eric Larson, Todd McFarlane, and John Romita Jr. I voted for John Romita Jr. because I knew Todd McFarlane would be the runaway success, and when I looked at the samples I found on Heritage and posted them, I thought, I think I'd prefer a John Romita Jr. All right, and in order of votes, Todd McFarlane won. Took it away. John Romita Jr. followed behind him, number 2 place. Eric Larson was the 3rd place. Mark Bagley was 4th, and Ron Frenz was 5th. Of the material, I have to say I'd go for Romita Jr. or McFarlane. Not really interested in one from anybody else in this list. Maybe Larson. No, I don't think so. That's the poll. Join us every month for the poll, please. Previously, I was posting on the 15th and realized, if I'm posting it to this latter half of the month, I should be posting on the 16th. So I did that for this month's poll, and I will be going forward with that. It's going to be the 16th to the end of the month, active on the home page, stuck to the top, first post, and after that, it's called sticky in WordPress. Then I take it off that first position. You can always come back and vote, though. I've figured out the bug in the plugin and have the dates now, so you can always come back and vote. So please do that. There's previous polls you can check. The only thing you can't go back and vote on is the Scott Dunbier Awards. I give it a whole month, and I like to have that as a final complete item. All right, moving on. Let's talk about Artist Edition out-of-print sales, January 2021. That's 2021. That's where I look at the sales on eBay. In the post, I have links to the review, and then I have also links to Right to eBay. And I will mention that those are links that get me a small amount of money. They are affiliate links. And eBay links are actually my most profitable item on the website. It makes the most money, more than the Patreon patrons, more than the Amazon or things from another world. So thank you, everybody, for continuing to use my eBay links. All right, let's talk about what's sold. 2 copies of Best of EC Comics, Volume 1, averaging $201.94. That's quite a bump. 3 copies of Bill Sienkiewicz's Mutants and Moon Knights and Assassins for an average of $316.65. Another bump. Wow. 4 copies of Dave Cockrum's X-Men, averaging $118.37, so that's below cover. Interesting. One of the newer books on this list. 2 copies of Dave Stevens' The Rocketeer Artist Edition first print, averaging $199.99. Well, good money. 1 copy of David Mazzucchelli's Daredevil Born Again for $250. Now that's come down. The volume or the number have sold. The price is staying pretty high up there. There is that artisan edition of that book, which I did review on the site. 1 copy of ElfQuest Gallery Edition, $125. 1 copy of Frank Cho's Savage Wolverine for $150. 2 copies of Frank Miller's Daredevil Artifact Edition, averaging $199.99, above cover again. That was a $125 cover price book, but it is, out of print. 2 copies of Frank Miller's Sin City, The Hard Goodbye Curators Collection, averaging $163.19. 3 copies of Gene Colan's Tomb of Dracula, $228.57 average. 3 copies of Gil Kane's Amazing Spider-Man Artist Edition, averaging $124. 1 copy of Jack Davis's EC Stories for $186.56. 2 copies of Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four Artist Edition, averaging $114.22. 2 copies of Jack Kirby's Fantastic Four: The World's Greatest Artist Edition. That's the twice up 15 by 22 volume. It averages $150. 4 copies of Jack Kirby's Marvel Heroes and Monsters for $131.25 average. 4 copies of Jack Kirby's The Mighty Thor Artist Edition. That's another twice up one for $113.99. Lots of Kirby movement here. That was a good deal, well below price. 1 copy of Jim Lee DC Legends Artifact for $115. 2 copies of Joe Kubert's Tarzan of the Apes, averaging $79.99. Bargain. Those books are so great. One copy of John Buscema's Silver Surfer Artist Edition for $149.95. 2 copies of John Byrne's X-Men Artifact Edition, averaging $285. That's quite a bump. 1 copy of John Romita's The Amazing Spider-Man Artist Edition, Volume 2 for $85. 1 copy of Marvel Covers Artist Edition for $113.50. 2 copies of Michael Golden's Micronauts Artist Edition, averaging $351.25. I mean, that is the newest book on this list, and that is a crazy price. That is insane. I double-checked it. I thought are we talking about the limited edition? No. Somebody paid a crazy amount for a regular edition, and that bumped up my average. 3 copies of Ross Andrews' The Amazing Spider-Man Artist Edition, averaging $161.65. 1 copy of Sergio Aragona's Gru the Wanderer for $165. 1 copy of Spawn Vault Edition, $430.90. Man, that book is bumped back up into the stratosphere there. 2 copies of The Prisoner Original Art Edition for $93.47 average. So there's above cover finally. 1 copy of Usagi Yojimbo, The Artist and Other Stories Gallery Edition, sold for $368. Now, we've talked about this before repeatedly, that this book seems to be the hardest to get AE format book. It does not come up much on eBay or anywhere else. And this $368 per copy, that's somebody's clearly been waiting for it and wanted it. That's a great price. But the winner for highest price I've seen on this list now goes to Wally Wood's EC Stories Artist Edition. 1 copy, standard first print, sold for $675. Yowzers. Last book on the list, Will Eisner's The Spirit Artist Edition. 1 copy sold for $175. So lots of bumps here, well above cover. A few bargains to be had. Those Jack Kirby books were a couple were below cover. So that is just astounding to see prices go up like that. That is crazy. We'll see if that continues. Now, as I mentioned, Patreon, you can support the website 3 ways. You can become a Patreon patron, so that's sponsoring me for $1 or more a month, whatever you feel comfortable with. Starts at $1, and that gets you access to some things. It's really a support to say thank you for what you're doing on the site. But I was able to work with Scott Dunbier, and we presented a Zoom call on the weekend that was exclusive to Patreon patrons, and we had a good crowd turnout, and they were able to chat with Scott, ask their questions. A lot of interesting things came up. So you can read about it on the Tapatalk Marvel Masterworks forum, which I linked to on the site. The big news, I guess, was the next book coming out, which is John Buscema's Marvel Heroes Artist Edition. There'll be 3 complete stories and then just a ton of pages and covers from John Buscema's early work at Marvel. I think Scott said this is 60s and 70s work. So, no Conan, no later stuff like that. But, I mean, I'm really excited. John Buscema's Avengers work is right in my nostalgia wheelhouse. I was born after those books were published, but when I got into collecting, one of the first things I bought, I started with Invaders. I think I mentioned this before. And then I went to Marvel Triple Action, which is a reprint book of early Marvel's Avengers stuff. And it was just that. So that pulls my nostalgia strings. So I'm looking forward to that book. And then there's some other things he announced. So we're going to have to really see. He's got the 4 books lined up for 2022. I think I've talked about before. That earlier schedule of 12 books a year is long gone. If you looked at the last few years, you know that. But Scott is working on a schedule of 4 books a year. It's not going to happen this year in 2021, I think, because of the delays from COVID last year. Didn't happen last year either. So we're hoping maybe to get out of this COVID delays and turn things around. All right, 1 book released this month. Thankfully, so excited to see a book released, and that is Jim Lee's X-Men Artist Edition. Here's the blurb. Jim Lee has been drawing comics for more than 30 years and is one of the most popular comic book artists of all time. The impact his dynamic artwork has had on the comics industry, to his legions of fans and the artists who have been inspired by and emulated him, is truly immeasurable. And in a career filled with highlights, his work on X-Men is arguably his most popular and enduring. This very special artist edition features Lee's stellar work on X-Men, including the complete oversized X-Men main story, still the best-selling comic book ever published in the modern era. Additionally, there will be covers, splash pages, pin-ups, and interior pages by Lee doing what he does best, creating great comics. Each page has been meticulously scanned from Lee's original artwork for his book, affording the reader insight into his creative process never before available outside of original art collectors. Produced in the one and only, accept no imitations, multi-Eisner Award-winning Artist Edition format. For any fan of Jim Lee, this book will become a cherished centerpiece of your collection. Special bonus, there is a gorgeous double folded in this book that features all 4 connecting covers from X-Men #1. Now that is 160 pages, it's 12 by 17. It was released February 24th, $150 US. Now, the interesting thing about this book is that it is the first one being released through Penguin Random House. So that means IDW is allowing finally their special project books to be sold through book retailers. So if you order this book, say from Amazon or some British publishers, Books Etc. has an amazing deal on it. I can't really remember some of the other ones. Some Speedy Hen. If you order from Indigo, there's a good chance you got this book before the 24th. So you actually got it before local comic shops. I was at my comic shop on February 24th, picked up my book, read it for 2 days, and then did my review on the Friday. So please go online and check out the review. I have 24 images, and now I also have my video walkthrough that I started with the Michael Golden Micronauts book. That's I do a flip through, I get it onto the camera, and then I turn page after page. This one took 6 minutes, and you get to see the entire book. But if you'd like to read what I have to say about it, please go to the review and give it a read. I don't write a whole lot. My blurb always says the same thing. As with all AE format material, this is a collection of classic comic material, and I'll be reviewing the book and not the story. Right? So that's what I did. Amazing book. The scan quality, really excellent. And it's interesting, this book is, like I said in the review, this is a marriage of artist edition and artifact edition, because yes, there's one full story, but then everything else is just random pages. So as an example, there's 3 pages from X-Men 248, 1 from 256, 1 from 258, 6 from 267, 8 from 268, 6 from 269, 2 from 270, 4 from 271, 4 from 272, 8 from 274, 3 from 275, 3 from 276, 4 from 277. And then you got X-Men 1, and then we got 6 from X-Men 2, then we got 4 from X-Men 3, 2 from X-Men 4, 2 from X-Men 5, 3 from X-Men 6, 4 from X-Men 7, 5 from X-Men 8, 5 from X-Men 9, 2 from X-Men 10. So that's the body of the work there. And then we get that amazing fold-out, right, which is there's a triptych of wall posters on the back, but on the one side, and the other side is, of course, the 4 covers for X-Men 1. Amazing stuff to see those all together like that. And then there's a gallery edition, because Scott always likes to separate it into the proper and then the gallery. And you know what? I don't seem to be able to find my gallery edition image in my review, so I'm going to have to go back to my images and see why that is not there. But we have a lot of covers, and then so it's a wonderful material, really. Please go and read the review. On that Zoom call, Scott, I asked him, is this going to be your best-selling AE format book ever? Because of the best one was the David Mazzucchelli's Dead Reborn Again, but this one, I said, is this going to be your best-selling ever? And he said yes. So I think with the bookstore sales, this one just surpasses everything. So that's amazing. So that is wonderful to hear, really. So kudos to IDW and Scott Dunbier on this book. You also get a nice introduction from Scott Williams, who's credited on the cover. That's always nice to see you. We've seen that before with Tom Palmer credited on the Star Wars book with Walt Simonson. And now we got this. So really great. Check it out. Check out the review. I'm assuming most people listening to this has probably either ordered the book or going to order the book. So if you're an X-Men fan, it's well worth having. My treat, of course, X-Men 268, I remember when that came out. Loved it. Loved Jim Lee. Loved the ninjas. I was actually hoping Jim Lee did a print set with the Punisher and Wolverine called Bad Night for Ninjas. It was called First Publishing, and not the first comics that from the 80s. I have the set at home in a drawer. It's some really nice print, two print set. No, the way they present it, they don't really present as a diptych there, you know. But nice set, anyways. All right, that's that. What else is happening? I should mention that there were no questions this month. I love questions. I love when people write into me and say, hey, what's going on? What's new? Can you tell me about this? Can you tell me about that? And I will answer anybody's question. Just email me, scott@aindex.org. Glad to answer your questions. Fortunately, we didn't get any questions. So The review schedule for next month, we'll see what happens. I'm thinking I've got a surprise actual book, something that's, my AE nemesis, Wikipedia, who always charts higher than me on searches, even though I've got more material than them. I've got an entire website dedicated to artist editions, but they're always charting better than me. Normally it's, IDW Publishing, Wikipedia, and then me. I can't seem to break that pattern. Anyway, they mentioned a book, Binky Brown, which was a book that printed original art in 2009. So I got a copy of that online over Christmas. I had a gift card. I thought I never wanted to order it. It's underground material, and it doesn't really interest me. So I did order it. It was $29.95. It was a good deal. So I picked it up, and I will review it on the website next month. I'm a bit light on material for the show this month. It's getting no solicitations, no sales numbers, very few releases, not much news. It's a lean time for Artist Edition fans. If you like the format and you like to like to engage in the conversation, you can go to the Marvel Masterworks Tapa Talk forum. We're over 1,000 pages, and I know that can be daunting, but if you jump into the latest page and then maybe read 10 pages back, you'll catch up on the conversation. They have a nice search function. You can search for things. The conversation started, right after Artist Edition started. I've been on there for quite a while, and it's a great resource. So I encourage you to take advantage of that. I really think that's it for me this month. Please support me if you can. Click on the links on the website when you do some ordering. Lots of great material on eBay during this COVID lockdown time. You can get your read on and order those books. Well worth it. Thanks, and we will talk again next month.
Let her go, God bless her. Wherever she may be, she can search this wide world over. She'll never find a sweet man like me.